Dark skins ain't my type, but I smash just to see what it's like. You feel me? You black and
I'm finding it.
You know it's top everything, you know it's king already, you know it's my body, so got a king body. Body gon' shine, bling, bling body. Calling all the shots, ring, ring.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome, and if you're not, welcome back. Thank you guys so much for coming. In today's video, you already read the title, so you already know what it is. I'm going to be talking about an issue that a lot of persons would like to think does not exist, but it very much does. And the only people that really know how much of a real issue this thing is darker skin black women. We're talking about colorism. Colorism is discrimination or prejudice that exists within a ethnic group or within a race. That experience it are usually darker skinned people. A lot of persons don't like talking about it just because it's an issue within the black community, and everybody would want to think that there is no real issue within the black community and there are bigger issues like racism, and let's not deal with that. Let's deal with only racism. But how can we deal with racism if we don't deal with colorism? Yes, there are, but to say that this issue doesn't matter just because there are bigger issues is just weird. All right, so the reason why it's not looked into is because most affected people are darker skinned black women, and black people on a whole are already a minority, or issues are overlooked in general, and then women are even more so overlooked. And then how small of a percentage is darker skinned black women? So we're gonna even more so be overlooked. So it's been years and years of darker skinned black women having to build themselves up, having to understand that they are beautiful, having to have mothers who will say to them like, listen, you're darker skinned than other people, but you are beautiful just the same. And if a parent has to say that to somebody, you know that there's an issue. There's an issue. We shouldn't have to be building up other people just because you're darker skin or because you have any other physical thing. You shouldn't have to tell the person that, please understand that you're beautiful. All right, so in the Smash or Pass that was done, and Smash or Pass, for those of you who don't know, it's merely for entertainment. I know a lot of people find it to be corny, but this is social media, and a lot of persons are on social media just to entertain people, and whatever it is that other people find entertaining, they're going to do. So I'm not even going to say like, why did you need validation from so and so, and why did you need to even be a part of that? Social media is for entertainment. Most of the people who are a part of the Smash or Pass were also YouTubers, and if it is a video that a lot of persons want to see, of course, if it's brought to you like, oh, do you want to be a part of the Smash or Pass? Of course you're going to say yes. Maybe I wouldn't, but if that was your choice to say yes, I don't feel like anybody should be bashing you like, oh, you went there for validation anyways. Even if that's the case, it was your choice, and that should not be the debate. And I feel like people always lose the point or lose the real focus should be. They always stray to other things. It's just like, why did you even go there in the first place? She went there, and that's just what it is. Let's deal with the real issue at hand. Okay, so she went, the darker skinned girl, which she was beautiful, like a beautiful girl. And so the black men that were there were smashing other people that were lighter skinned and was passing on the darker skinned girl. And some of them even literally said, oh, pass on you because you're too dark for me. Or the one darker skinned black man, and black men do face it too, like where black women would say like, oh, they like lighter skinned men rather than darker skinned men. And so he must have understood like what that feels like, and even though he understood what that feels like, he still did it to her. He was like, no for you because you're darker than me. And it's also a power move where people who have inferiority complexes, they use that to make themselves feel better. And as a darker skinned woman, and I watched her video, her response video afterwards, and she said she didn't feel bad about it, and it's something she has been going through her whole life. And so having to reassure yourself over and over, you get to a point where you're so powerful within yourself and you understand yourself so much that whatever other people say don't affect you. And I could totally relate to that, and I could 100% believe that she did not feel any type of way and that she knew she was beautiful. But I still want to talk about the fact that it was even done to her, and the fact that it's an issue that we really need to look into and stop doing, because it's just like, just because you're lighter skin does not mean you're more beautiful than one person. And I don't want to make it into a, oh, who's more beautiful than who, because everybody's beautiful. But if we're really judging like physical features and really getting down to it, you're not more beautiful than somebody because you're lighter skinned. Oh my God. And gosh, I've been through it even with family members. Like, family members would be like lighter skinned than me, and they would say like, oh, I'm prettier than you because I'm lighter skinned. And it's just weird. It's just overall weird. First of all, let's not compare ourselves. And if we're really getting down to it, just because you're lighter skin does not mean you're more beautiful than somebody else. So where does colorism stem from? It stems from, I would say, being colonized as a people, just black people overall feeling like they had to, which is understandable because the Caucasian people were the people in power, and to feel like you had to measure up, black people would feel like anything that they could do to make themselves as close to white as possible was what they did. And so that followed us as a people even years after slavery, even years after being colonized. And that's where that stems from. People are aware of it. And I'm just saying, like, as long as you are aware that this thing exists and consciously trying to change that, the issue is not going to ever be changed. Like, we need to first understand, one of the first steps to change is to understand that the thing exists. Like, there is no change if we don't accept and acknowledge that this thing exists. It does exist. And if we accept that, okay, maybe this thing subconsciously followed us years after, and what can we do to unlearn that? It's never going to change. So yeah, that's where it stemmed from. And it's so bad where even if your hair is nappy, the less coil in your hair, in your curl pattern, the more beautiful. And we see it in the music industry, we see it almost everywhere, even in the media. That's what they push. And even if they're going to have a black woman on a show, it's always the black woman that is a little bit more ambiguous. It's no real like, oh, she's black for sure. She has like a little bit of mixture in her, and that's what they would push to the forefront. Okay, so who does it the most? I'm not trying to be, I'm just telling it as it is. Who does it the most? It's black men. Yeah, black men, and black men will make women, darker skinned women, turn to bleaching and whatever. I'm not trying to blame somebody, because you should really know who you are and not like try to change yourself to fit into anything. But black men are the ones saying outrightly like, oh, I don't like her because she's too dark. You're not going to find a white man doing that, because you're either going to find a white man being racist towards black people overall, but they're never going to say like, oh, she's so dark, she's too dark for me. Because first of all, if they find black women attractive, it's usually the more melanated women that they find attractive. Because if it is that they're going for a black woman, to go for somebody that is as close to white as possible doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. If it is that they find black women to be attractive, it's usually the darker skin black women, because what's different for them, you know. And I'm not saying that's a good thing either, because that's very much fetishy, but I'm saying you're not going to find a white man or a man another race doing it to the darker skinned black women. That's just not a thing. It's usually they're either going to be straight up racist, or they're going to just be attractive to black women. They're not going to say, oh, you're too dark for me. That's just not something that's done. Okay, so it's the black men now that are black themselves, that are trying to have a certain look and a certain woman by their side that makes them feel like, oh, I'm better than the next man, because it's usually an ego thing too, and they shun. And it's just like, if you even have a preference, like, you don't need to say like straight up like, oh, this is what my preference is. Like, if you have a preference, like, have a preference, but you don't have to put somebody down in order to say this is my preference. You don't have to say like, oh, you're not good looking and I'm not even into you. Like, go have your preference, but leave other people alone. There are other people. Everybody's somebody's cup of tea. So even if you don't find a person to be attractive, like, go do you and leave other people alone. And it's very, very sad, because even in the video, it's a same darker skinned black man saying like, oh, you're darker than me. Like, oh, it's just weird. It's nonsense. And we need to understand like why it is that we do the things that we do. When have I experienced it? I've experienced colorism. If you're going out with a group of friends, or if you take a picture with a group of friends, no matter if, like I said, no matter your physical features, no matter how stunning you are or whatever, you're going to find that the lighter you are within the black community, they say the better looking you are. And even when you're walking in groups, no matter how much the person is not attractive or whatever, as long as the person is lighter skinned or as close to white, that's what the men are going to go for. And it's sad to say, but that's the reality of it. Like it is. If you go for a job interview and you're qualified and there's another person that's qualified, you usually find that the person that is lighter skin, because it's also classism as well. In my country, the lighter skinned people are usually the people with more money, and they want that certain look to it, and they normally give that person the job. With everybody, like, everybody is not like that, but for the most part, a lot of people still have that backwards mentality to think that, oh, you're not beautiful just because you're darker skin. And even if they're finding you beautiful, they're always going to say something like, oh, go do modeling or whatever. It's still that little, oh, your beauty is unique. It's not like, oh, you're just beautiful. They're always like pushing you to go do modeling. Like, not every black woman wants to be editorial, or not every black woman wants to do modeling. And just because you're black doesn't mean you have to go into modeling. It's like, that's the only area you can really be successful in. It's annoying. In which I experienced colorism is in arguments. So whenever someone is arguing with you, your blackness is used as a form of disrespect. So especially in Jamaica, so in Jamaica, like, if somebody's arguing with you, the first thing they'll be like, so that's why you're so black, or that's why you're black, so, or anything like that is used as a form of disrespect. And it's just ridiculous to me. It's ridiculous to me because they're the same people that are going to say like, oh, this person was racist towards me, and it's just like, you're doing the exact same thing. And some people argue it's not the exact same thing. Why is it not the exact same thing? Because they're going to argue and say the white people have resources that they need and can literally affect your livelihood as a person because they're the ones in power. But it's just like, do you take into consideration how you're messing with somebody's mental health, and you need your mind to be intact for you to enjoy life, and for you to have even the livelihood that you speak of. You need to have a sound mind. So do you take into consideration how much you mess with somebody's mental when you do stuff like that? And it's just like, it's the same thing. Stop doing it, because I don't feel like people should have to be building someone else up. Remember that even though you're dark skinned, you're beautiful. Like, that shouldn't be a thing that parents have to do. I don't feel. We're in 2021, and I don't feel like people should be walking around having to even build themselves up, because every time they go out into the world, they feel like they're attacked or they're stripped of their thoughts, their positive thoughts about themselves, because other people are saying this, or even if they're not saying something, it's omission, like they're not saying this, or they're not giving you this opportunity because you are darker skin. And it's us women who are raising children, and if it is that we're not the best version of ourselves, we're just going to keep raising bad children, decent human beings. And we can't afford for people, black women, to have negative mindsets, because we're the ones raising children. And if we're raising children and we're not good, the children are not going to be good either. So let's stop discrimination against darker skinned black women. And like I said, I don't want anybody come to be like, oh, trying to build me up. Like, I'm good. I'm just saying, like I said, it takes years and years of unlearning certain things and trying to build yourself up to get to a point where you're comfortable in your skin and nobody can tell you anything. And if you watch the video, you'll see that the girl explained that as well. And I just want to say, like, let's do better for not only ourselves, but just for the race as a whole. Let's try to do better. Like, yeah. That's it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.